Welcome everyone to day 4 of the HR Leadership Accelerator workshop. I love day 4 because today is the day where we get into actual leading. Everything that we've been talking about: Monday, values-based results; Tuesday, presence, leadership presence, professional bearing; Wednesday, yesterday, we got into intellect, mindset, all of that up there. Today, we're going to talk about putting that together, and we're going to be talking about leading, actually leading from the front, building trust and confidence, leading by example. What's the difference between leadership and management? We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about leading outside of your organization, and what does that look like? If you're in HR, I know you've been contacted. You're probably contacted by vendors all the time. And how do you differentiate between a vendor and a true partner? That's important stuff. We're going to talk about that today. And we'll have some actionable things for you at the end. And then we'll go into our leadership program as a whole, tell you a little bit about that. So without further ado, quick couple admin notes. Make sure if you want to comment inside the live stream, because we use an app, StreamYard, goes out to our Facebook group and to YouTube at the same time. So there should be a link that you see. It says click on the StreamYard link so that your name can come up in the comments. That would be great. And I see that that's happening already. Tracy, welcome back. Hey, just want to say it's been a great week. And we have today, we have tomorrow. And then this weekend, we'll actually go into some private Zoom sessions. If you want to come in, ask questions, get deeper insights, we're going to offer that up to you actually over the next Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday through next week. So with that, those are the admin notes. Elle, welcome back. She's moderating for us again today. Thank you so much for doing that for us. We greatly appreciate it. And as you can see, I'm live in our Hale Media Group Bravo Center of Excellence office, which is the home office. That's how we roll. It's what we like. Keep it virtual for now, as far as our company is concerned, which is a lot of companies out there today. So the first topic for today is building trust and confidence. On day 1, we talked about confidence around, day 2, around presence and how we show up every day, how our employees show up every day, and the importance of having confidence. So today we have Mike Barger again. I have a video clip for you where Mike and I talked about how to build trust, how to elevate your confidence in your team, their confidence back to you as their leader. So without further ado, I will share that video with you. And here we go. From your perspective and throughout your career, Mike, what are some of the things that you've seen work really well in helping build trust amongst your teams?
It feels like a really big question that we could spend lots of time talking about. I think it ultimately all starts with your very first conversations with members of your team or new hires or whoever you're going to be doing business with. I think it all starts out with kind of approaching the relationship as just that, as a relationship, not as a transactional sort of exchange, but more, as an interactional kind of exchange.
Right.
And so I think it starts with being, setting some expectations and being clear about, this is how we're going to work together and this is what we're going to try to accomplish together. And then taking it a step further and saying, and this is how we need to be comfortable kind of interacting, right? And giving feedback and asking for feedback and setting those kinds of expectations. That's a really good place to start. We do some at Michigan Ross. We are fairly well known for our experiential learning activities that we create so that students can learn business by doing business. And one of the things that we incorporate in every one of those initiatives is an early conversation among student teammates about how we're going to work together and what we're going to do together when somebody seems to be going off the reservation a little bit, right? How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to bring that up? What conversation do we want to have about that? And what we've discovered, having done this now for almost 30 years as a core part of our curriculum, is that we have a lot of data that tell us that when you have those conversations before there's a problem, so to your question, Bo, if you're trying to recover, if you're trying to talk about trust when you've already sort of lost it because of something that's happened, that's a whole different conversation than when you have that talk before there's been an issue, because you can set some expectations. So long road to a small house maybe, but start from the beginning with this idea that there are going to be some pressures put on the trust component of our relationship. And so when one of us or when we as a team sense those pressures, this is how we're going to talk about it.
Right. No, very, 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 very well said. I like that. And I like the relationship piece, because I think it's important to make those distinctions. And I'll give you a perfect example, because when you don't have the relationships, or they're not deep-rooted relationships, and that those efforts haven't taken place, it's oftentimes that everybody outside of HR will say, well, you got to go talk to HR, So, but how much different would it be if the phrase is, you got to go talk to Bo, or we need to bring Bo into this conversation? That, to me, automatically sends a signal that I've made some type of relationship with external departments in my company, wherein they don't see me just as, oh, geez, it's HR, right? This is Bo. We have a relationship with Bo, and that's how we move forward. And you talk about, like, when you bring people in, and I think it's really key to set those expectations, right? And it kind of goes back to and we've done it all week about, making it simple, right? And it goes to the I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to set expectations, right? So I'm telling you, I'm verbalizing that to you. Maybe it's in writing, whatever, but then I'm actually going to do it. So it's tell you what I'm going to do, then actually do what I told you I was going to do. It's the execution piece. It's the set expectations, but then actually follow through on those expectations and things you start to tell people. I use that as a don't overpromise, right? Because people can get themselves into trouble if they say they're going to do way too much and then it doesn't happen. And then you, like, I think what you were alluding to, you go down this rabbit hole and now you don't have trust because, you said you were going to do a whole lot of things and you didn't get it done. Now we have a different issue to talk about. Right. Yeah. And you're in a different place now versus, So I like that. So when we think about steps that you can take right away to start building trust, relationship, start from the beginning, as you said, set expectations, both sides of the equation, whoever you're working with, follow through with those, and then it'll just keep going from there.
Yeah, and keep the feedback coming. I think it really does start with a philosophy or a belief that people don't get up in the morning and decide to go to work and do a bad job. Right. I have a bit of an irrational sense of hope that, people jump out of bed in the morning and that they're actually really excited to go do what it is that they're going to do the whole day. And so, when things aren't going exactly the way you would like them to be going as a team leader or a group leader, starting with the assumption that, hey, the people, I think they want to do a good job. So if they're not doing what we need them to do, then maybe the issue is we just didn't do a very good job setting those expectations, or we didn't make it clear. My default position when coaching someone, when we're having that first uncomfortable conversation, is that it's probably my fault because I wasn't clear enough with what we were trying to do or what success looked like or what my expectations were. And so, I'm very happy to say, maybe I just wasn't clear enough. So I apologize for putting you in a tough spot, but where we are is, here's what we need and here is what we're getting. And there's a difference between the two. So let's work together to close the gap. Yeah. And go team. Yeah. Let's go team.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And you can even think of, going back to the JetBlue story and the monthly surveys, right? So when it goes back to the conversation of, if you don't, trust plays a big role in this. If you don't have any intention as leadership to really do anything about the survey feedback that you get, right, then you're in a worse position than you were had you not just done the survey in the first place. Those types of engagement and that type of feedback that you're getting, and then taking action upon some of that feedback, communicating what it is that you can do, what you're capable of doing or able to do. You may not be able to do everything that people are telling you or would like to see happen, but those types of things also help build organizational trust in the leadership of the organization, that we speak, they listen, action happens.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's really kind of that they speak, we listen, things happen based upon what we said and the feedback we gave.
Yep.
That I think is the essence of when we talk about building trust and maintaining it. It's keep those things going. When you're on that path and you're doing it right, you got to just keep doing those things.
Yep.
And everybody will be brought in and they'll realize these are people, these are leaders that we can trust.
Yep. And here's a little keep it simple soundbite that maybe our viewers and listeners will find useful. So one of the philosophies we had at JetBlue about getting feedback from people, and this is going to sound maybe a little counterintuitive, but I think you'll all find it really useful, is that we used to always say about getting feedback from people, where there's noise, there's hope.
Yeah.
Right. So people aren't going to complain about things to you as a leader unless somewhere in their heads they believe that by telling you, by taking that step, that something might actually happen to make it better.
Yeah.
So don't view, if you can, don't think about viewing noise from your folks as just this constant stream of complaints or they'll just never be satisfied. If you can kind of work past that and think, they're actually taking steps to let us know what they want to be better around here.
Yeah.
They really didn't think things could get better, or they didn't have hope that they might be able to facilitate some change. They'd stop talking. So silence is not good.
Silence is not good.
No, because either you're perfect, which I haven't seen in my career, maybe. But either you're perfect or people have just given up kind of taking the time to tell you what could be better. So celebrate the noise. It's okay. Where there's noise, there's hope.
So let's break that down for just a second before we get into the next topic. Mike talks about, where there's noise, there's hope. General Colin Powell had a quote. He's former Secretary of State, general officer during the first Iraq War. But he had a quote floated around social media really, really quick. And it goes to what Mike said around where there's noise, there's hope. And his quote went something like this: "You'll know you've stopped being an effective leader when your team stops talking to you." So when your team stops talking, that's the noise disappears. So even where there's chatter, where there's noise, where there's comments, where feedback is coming to you, you have hope for improving. You have hope for accomplishing the mission. You have hope for accomplishing the vision of your organization or the vision of your team and where you're going. So accept the noise, celebrate it, that people are talking. Excuse me. We also talk a lot about setting expectations, and we're going to get further examples of that with Mike here in just a minute. But I want to be sure and clarify. So it's very easy, and especially for us in HR, because we are the home of job descriptions, setting the knowledge, skills, and abilities around every role in our company. We're the home of recruiting and posting jobs and interacting with candidates. We're the first touch point. And it's also really important to know that when you're building trust, it starts with that very first moment of contact. So that contact can be the job description or the job post that you put out there. Next contact, they apply for the job. And if they meet or if they get any type of reception or any type of message back saying, "Hey, thank you for applying," those types of things, you're building trust all along the way. So I want you to really take hold of that, where literally the first moment of contact with a potential candidate who could be a future employee, it's that moment. It's that moment, and the trust starts to build, the confidence in you and your team and your company as a whole. It starts right then. So keep that in mind. Also, it's easy, going back to what I was saying for HR, it's really easy because we build job descriptions. We work with other hiring managers to make sure they have their job descriptions written well, so that when we post them, we attract the right talent. It's easy for us, becomes an easy task because we do it over and over again. It's easy for us to set expectations of someone else. It's easier for us to say, hey, in this role, this is what you're expected to do. This is the job description. This is the skills, or these are the tasks you'll be expected to perform, or the types of tasks you'll be expected to perform in your role inside your team, your company, right? That's setting expectations for them. That's the first time you're doing it, when you're showing them a job description, right? So think of it as, now you're hiring somebody for your HR team, and you've written the job description, got the first contact, you've hired them, right? Now it's time to sit down with them, go over the job description, make sure they understand their role. It's that first, as Mike alluded to, that first, it can be a little uncomfortable. You know, you're just meeting the person maybe for the second, third time, but now they're on your team. That's your new teammate, and it's easy. And I say easy because we often like to go for, hey, we're talking to this person, we're the boss, we're the supervisor, we're going to tell them everything that we expect of them. But you got to go a step further. So where leadership comes into play, and when you're really building that two-way trust, two-way communication between you and your new teammate, you have to let them know what they can expect of you. Let me say that again. In that conversation, make sure you're prepared to let your new teammate know what they can expect of you as the leader. That becomes a conversation that you're also having with HR managers, not with HR managers, with other hiring managers or supervisors, line managers, other leaders in your organization, that they have to have those discussions with their own employees, with their own teammates. It's a two-way conversation. This is what you expect of the employee. This is what the employee should expect of you as the leader. You want to start building inclusivity and empowerment, then you give that employee the freedom, the latitude to talk to you and set time on your calendar and be able to be candid, professionally and respectfully, when they think you're falling short as the leader, when you're not providing the resources that they need. That is when you start to build the highest level of trust and confidence in each other, and you really start building a high-performing team. You got to set expectations back and forth, two-way. It's both ways. So with that, we're going to talk about how you empower your people when you have so many tasks to get done. You're in HR. I know you feel this. I felt it. I feel it, because there's so much to get done in a day. I'll give you an example, and I actually have another little something to show you here. Back in my days, this is one of the best examples, because it was the absolute craziest times as far as the number of tasks and how important it was to ensure that the team knew exactly what they were doing, what was expected of them, and that they also knew what they expected of you, and you were aware of that. Everybody just has a ton of work to do, but that doesn't relieve you of your leadership responsibilities and how you empower people to get the job done and go forward and actually accomplish what they need to accomplish. So back when I was at the White House leading teams for President Bush and President Obama on the communication side, as what we termed a presidential communications officer, I had my own duties. And when we would go out on a trip or get ready for the president to arrive to give a speech, we had basically 6 days to prepare. And on day 7, the president showed up to give the speech. There's no rehearsal. I said that before, right? So I have this laundry list, task list, the sheet, part of the system, a checklist for myself. And I knew that every single teammate had their own checklist, right? There's so much to get done. I have my own work to get done. They have their work to get done. They're empowered to get their work done. And we use the trust but verify system, wherein I'm 100% comfortable, because we've built a high level of trust and confidence that they're going to get up every morning and they're going to accomplish what's on their checklist. I have copies of their checklists. I'm not going to do the work. They're going to do it. And then at the end of every day, we had a meeting, and this kind of comes into the communication thing, where we would talk about the day and what happened. And throughout the day, they knew that if anything was presenting a roadblock to them in accomplishing one of their tasks, they had me on speed dial, because we were in multiple locations. Dispersed, say, throughout a city. President's going to go talk in Boise, Idaho, Cleveland, Ohio, whatever, Deerfield Beach, Florida. One of our attendees is in Deerfield Beach. President's going to show up. You have all of this stuff to get done throughout the entire city, from the airport to the event location, hotels, you name it. and your team has to get all the work done. So you got to check in with them at the end of the day, make sure that they are doing and have accomplished what they've accomplished. So that's me setting expectations with them. They're going to do what they need to do, and I expect them to take care of their job. And they can expect me to check in with them at the end of the day. They can expect me to be there for them if they have an issue throughout the day to help them resolve it if need be. And if they can't get in touch with me, and Mike's going to talk about that here in a second, if they can't get in touch with me, they have boundaries left and right that they know they can execute against. Super important to establish boundaries on where, what, how, who your teammates can interact with and engage with, and the level of decisions that they can make. So let's bring Mike back in and hear him talk about this very thing.
I think going back to you told a bit of your story there was, as your team, your White House team was doing their work and they, in the middle of the day, ran into something they didn't expect or they needed a little bit of support with. Yes, I think that it's great to establish this expectation that, hey, if you run into something that you can't, you don't know exactly how to deal with, we are smarter than me, right? So let's get a couple of us together and figure out how to work through this. I would add to that, the graduate level follow on to that is, and if you can't find me or get in touch with me after, a reasonable effort, then remember that this is what we're ultimately trying to accomplish, and you go do what you need to do to get it done. Right?
Yeah.
Knowing that this is not going to turn back into tomorrow when I discover that you went and did something without approval or without talking to me, that we already have talked about the scenario where, hey, Bo, I need your help, but this is a really time critical item. And I called you, I went to your office. I thought you might be at home. I did all of that, but I needed to make a decision. And so here's where I went. Right.
Yeah.
So back to this notion of, of not creating a situation where people do what you want them to do and then you beat them up for it. You need to then kind of embrace that person's kind of motivation and enthusiasm and energy. And no matter how it turned out, if the process they were using is the one that you want them to use going forward, then, hug them for them kind of doing, executing what they thought was right. And then start the coaching on, all right, well, next time we're in this kind of a situation, here's how we're going to approach this thing. But I think that's an important follow on, because we don't want, in complex scenarios, the last thing you want is for your entire team to go into the field, run into something they didn't expect to see, no plan withstands contact with the enemy, and then feel like the only way they can move forward is if they get your blessing. Because when things get really complicated, you're not going to be able to get that. And so what they do is they'll stop. And they won't want to get in trouble. They won't want to do anything wrong. They won't want to, I don't want Bo to come and tell me that I didn't come and ask him for permission. This doesn't work like that anymore. So you need to be really clear about kind of boundaries, bumpers, buffers, however you want to describe them. Hey, we're in a safety or security sensitive industry. We can't be hurting people. So if it comes to a question of, hey, if I throw this lever and somebody might get hurt, don't do that unless we talk. That's a place where you stop. If it's just hey, I'm taking care of a customer and they've got a unique problem I've never heard of before. Let me check my resources. Let me send Bo a quick note here. All right, well, this person's still standing in front of me. I haven't heard back from Bo. This seems like the appropriate solution. I'm going to execute it, and then I'm going to feed back to Bo after, and we can talk about it. That is exactly the kind of behavior that you want.
There we go. Great comments from Dr. Mike Barger, co-founder of JetBlue Airways. Mike is also, if you're just joining us or if you didn't hear an introduction about Mike earlier, Mike's part of our team at the Bravo Center of Excellence. He's also the executive director of Michigan Online at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. And he also teaches high-stakes leadership for second-year MBA students, because he was in one of his roles at JetBlue after founding the company during 9/11, 2001, the terrorist attacks. Mike was the head of the Emergency Operations Center, so he knows crises. He knows a ton about leadership and building trust and confidence, empowering your teams, and so forth. So for us to have him on our team and being part of this is truly magnificent for us to be able to present him to you, because our mission is to help build leadership and business acumen in HR professionals specifically. That's my background. And it's just an amazing feeling to be able to do that for everybody that participates and takes time to do our sessions like this and so forth. So setting boundaries is a big deal. And part of that, as we progress in these topics, is leading by example. So when you take that moment to talk to one of your employees who works for you and you tell them everything that they can expect of you as a leader, you're really leading by example. You're teaching them something. That's a teachable moment that you are providing to them. You are building their leadership ability because they're learning from you. We talked earlier in the week, people are always watching. You're watching the CEOs, people are watching the leadership. And that applies to us and HR as well. People are watching us. When you have those conversations, they're learning. It's a learning moment, but it's powerful to set expectations, especially of yourself, and make sure it's communicated with your teammate. But I want to talk about leadership versus management. And I have my own little saying, and it's lead people, manage tasks. And I want to give you an example of that, because oftentimes we will put people in positions and they'll have a title of manager, and they think for whatever reason that they've got what it takes to lead inside their organization. Or you have this philosophy that because you've assigned tasks to somebody, that's leadership. When in reality, assigning tasks to an individual that they have responsibility for inside of their role is management. You manage tasks, you lead people. Leadership is all about people. You don't lead inanimate objects. You don't lead a house. You don't lead a truck. You lead people. And it's also why we espouse to the people first mission always. We are the people in HR. We have to always remember we're leading people and we're managing tasks. Why is that important? Because when we're building systems, and we talked about our 5 cornerstones, people, strategy, finance, systems, and then execution, it becomes very important to know where management sits inside of those 5 cornerstones, and it's in building the systems. So if you've ever had any project management experience and you know what a Gantt chart is, which is literally just a task list down the left-hand side, and then every task is assigned a duration of time that it should take to complete. And then when you have something like that, you can actually assign people to accomplish those tasks. So think of it just as a task list. If you've never used one before, it's a task list. So when you're setting expectations to your employees, you can say, these are your tasks in accordance with the functions that you perform inside of HR. These are the tasks that I expect you to complete. They could be daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks, whatever the case might be, but you're setting expectations and you're using this task list. That's management. You're managing a task list. The communication of that to the employee is leadership. You're communicating to them, you're setting expectations with them, you're leading within that system. That's why systems are so important. So you can lead within the system to achieve intent on a daily basis. When you are achieving intent on a daily basis, all those days add up. And the next thing you know, not only did you reach your objectives for the month or your milestone, you most likely surpassed them. That's why it's so important to take them in order of people first, strategy. So you know what it is, to the competition that you're trying to beat, if you will. Competition, it's a different story. It's not just talking about your company and who you compete against to sell products and services. We're talking, then you go on to finance and into building those systems and then executing them. And it's in the execution also where you're leading those efforts. Now, why do we say people first, mission always? I think I referenced this earlier in the week, right? So organizations have mission, vision, values. So your mission is why your business is in existence, or your organization in the first place. Why does the company even exist? Whether you're selling services, selling products, or you do both, or you're a nonprofit raising money, there's a reason why you're in business to begin with. And then your vision is where you want to take the organization, where you want to take your company. Where is it you want to get to? It could be a year long, 5 years, or you have big goals for 10 years down the road. You want to be a multi-billion-dollar organization. That's a vision. How do you get there? Values. Values are behaviors. We talked about that earlier in the week. Behaviors over time equal your values. Multiply that by all your employees. You have your culture, right? So your values, behaviors based, that's people. So it's people first. People will help accomplish the mission and reach your vision. So we have to make sure that we're putting people first. It's not money first. It's not logistics first. It's not marketing first. It's people first. Mission always is to make sure that we stay focused on why it is that we exist. So that's why I harp on over and over and over again that we understand mission, vision, values. It's not just a statement, mission statement, values, or vision statement, and then this list of values that's on the company website. They have to mean something to the organization, to everyone in the organization. And that is something that Mike talks about at JetBlue to this day. Everybody in the organization 100% know the values, not just to say them. They can describe them and they can tell you how they use them inside their own position in the company. So next, we're going to get into leading outside the organization. If you have ever answered a phone call and it's a vendor trying to sell you something, they could be selling you anything. New software to sit on top of your HRIS or your applicant tracking system, new payroll systems, employee engagements, survey companies, benefits brokers, 401k advisors, you name it, you get solicited on a regular basis. At some point, right, you engage those conversations because you need them. There's no question that you need a benefits advisor. You got to have a 401k company that's managing the investments of the employer contributions. You need your medical, your insurance, your benefits. So you need a payroll system. So at some point you are absolutely engaging all of those people. But what's important is from an HR perspective, because you're representing your company and it's an outlay of money that your company is going to be spending, it's important to note that you're in charge, that you're the leader of those engagements. You are their client, but you are the leader of those engagements. That's a mindset you have to hold on to, and you can't just let those individuals run with whatever it is they want to do. So how do you lead? How do you build a partnership with those companies? What does that really mean? Vendor relationship versus a real partnership. So in doing that, I think it's real important that we understand the impact and why it's important, the relationships that we have, and that we have partnerships and not just vendor interactions. So here's our last video clip today with Mike, where he'll talk about the importance of partnerships. Or a lot of departments and companies deal with outside vendors who become clients of the company. HR is no different, right? We have vendors helping with the things I just said. You have insurance brokers, you have payroll companies, you have HRIS companies, software companies. You're dealing with a lot of different vendors. I like to take on the mantra. We talked about relationships, right? If you're leading human resources in your company and you have the business mindset to go with it, and you're thinking about the ROI of whatever it is that you're going to potentially buy or put forth from a decision-making perspective, that we need to go down this road, and this is a software that we need to bring into the company. It's here's why we need to do it. Here's the data behind it. Here's the ROI we're going to get from it. And to truly get that, it's critical to have relationships with those vendors. In my experience, thoughts, vendor relationships versus relationships inside your company.
Yeah, it's interesting. So at JetBlue, one of the things we decided early on culturally as a company is that we weren't going to have vendors. Is that if you were on the JetBlue vendor list, that meant you were on the way out. We were going to have partners, and just having a mindset where whoever we partner with, because we're going to be really smart about what our core competencies are, and where there's not core competence, we're going to partner with people and organizations that have that as their core competence. And partnerships suggest more of we need to both do well out of this thing. The vendor notion tends to kind of focus a little bit more on, how do we get the most value we can for the lowest price, and how do we get every little advantage that we can. The partnership mindset was a little more transparent from the very beginning. We want you to be successful long term. We want you to help us be successful long term. That means we both need to perform well. The kind of financial terms need to be workable for both of us over the long term. It's just that simple mindset shift made it so much easier for us to approach these partners with a partnership, not a vendor relationship. And right. I've always found that really useful.
Vendor partnerships, super, super important. It's again, just like we talked about setting expectations and creating a two-way street between two-way interaction between you and your employee, setting them knowing what they can expect of you, knowing what they can expect or what you expect of them. It's the same with vendors that you deal with, and creating real true partnerships. It's super, super important. When you have that, it really will make a complete difference in how that engagement goes, and the level of support that you get from the partner, the external partner. And it gives them the trust and confidence in you, because they know they too are part of, basically what I always referred to my outside partners was, they're part of the team. They're an extension of the HR team in the organization. And it was super important to let them know that, so that they felt that they truly belonged inside of our organization. They could come and go as they pleased. We'd have meetings, we'd have talks, we'd talk strategy. Super, super important. You get that from a partner, not from a vendor. So just kind of remember that. It's just as important to be able to lead externally as it is internally, to have a real ROI across the company that you're getting from that partner. And even with a partner relationship, it's still across the 5 cornerstones: people, strategy, finance, systems, execution. Make sure they understand that as well. And that's how you're looking at things. So real quick here, communication and actionable steps. One of the videos we have out there, I'm going to share my screen here for a second. Let me show you. Add to stream. There we go. All right. Hopefully you can see that okay. Communication. I like to use tools when we're learning how to communicate, tools and tactics to get people to speak, to help people feel included and empowered. It's one of those things where the more people feel free to talk and to speak, and that you're actually listening to them, you build more and more trust and confidence. Hopefully you're seeing how this kind of all fits together. It's not just taking one piece or the other piece. It's meshing all this together like a giant puzzle, and you have basically a framework to build your leadership and to really build a high-performing team for your HR department. And then it's something that you can help flourish throughout your organization. So I call this the quad chart. I'm not the author of this. This was a leader that I worked with. He was the head of our organization when I was at the White House Communications Agency. He was the executive director, and we would have staff meetings once a week. And he came in and introduced the quad chart. He may have learned it somewhere else. I loved it. I took it. It just helped the meetings go super fluid, and it allowed people to talk. So use this for your team. Use this for how you engage with the executive suite. And I'll tell you an example about that in a second. So if you were going to implement this inside of your team, right, this would be something you can meet once a week, right? And you're going to explain to your team, you're going to set expectations with them. This is how they can communicate with you, and they're going to speak it. They're going to brief it back to you, but they're going to write out in that top left corner their top 3 to 5 priorities for the week. This is a great tool because they're telling you what they feel their priorities are. Helps you balance between what they think the priorities are and what you think the priorities are, and to make sure that you're aligned and you know what they're working on. And then they're going to tell you objectives over the next 30 days in the bottom left corner, next 60 days in the top right corner, to the best of their ability. And then the key piece for them, really, and helping them helping them communicate with you and what they need from you as the leader, as the head of HR, they're going to tell you what their resource requirements are. Resource can be people, it can be time, it can be money, it can be equipment, supplies, whatever the case might be. This is the bottom right corner of the quad chart, call to action. That way they can communicate to you what they need from you that week. And it's also a time and a moment where you get to respond and talk about where there might be any impacts or impediments or what you feel is reasonable or not reasonable. It's almost like a negotiation time back and forth between what they feel the priorities are, what they think the resource requirements are, and how you can actually help them where they need to go. Make sure they're in the right direction, going in the right direction. That's the whole point. That is a way to communicate with your team, and you can do this. I mentioned this in a post recently. This is like a once a week type of thing. But if you'd use this model, say you do a daily stand up or a morning scrum, whatever the case might be, it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. You don't have them necessarily fill this out, but it's how they're going to speak to you. This is the type of things that you would have them speak to you, only they would only be doing the top left corner and the bottom right corner. What are your priorities today? So if you're doing a daily meeting, it's what are your priorities today? Everybody's speaking, you're listening. What are the priorities today? Making sure it's aligned so you have an understanding that you know what they're doing and they're attacking the right priorities. And then the bottom right corner is they're going to tell you if they have if anything's impacting them or they see any impediments to getting those tasks done for the day. So you've assigned them tasks. You hope they understood that's what their priorities should be. Management piece of it. Now you're leading. You're talking. You're communicating between each other, between the team. If you have a large team or a small team, everybody's part of that conversation. Everybody's hearing it. It starts to build teamwork. It starts to build a cohesive team. And it's really just communicate. You can't communicate enough, right? So when you do this, I'll show you, you're doing this with your team. And then ultimately, your team member priorities feed down into your HR priorities and the strategy that you're trying to go after and you're trying to execute, right? So you've set this, but you're determining and making sure everybody understands that the team priorities funnel into the HR priorities as a whole because you're combining them. And then ultimately it filters into the company priorities and strategy. So when you do things like this, it really helps you get your arms around this whole process. Team priorities, HR priorities and strategy, company priorities and strategy. Do they all match? Do they align? Super, super important. That is going to be one of the full day topics or the 1 hour topic when we do the webinar in a couple of weeks with Mike, all around aligning strategy. So he will get into stuff like this in detail at that time. So with that, let me remove this from the stream. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. Now, the next thing for today's Thursday, we have 1 day left in the actual live workshop. Tomorrow, you're going to hear some clips from Marcus Ogden, who's one of our teammates when I introduced him the other day. Former NFL player, 6 seasons. After the NFL, he built an 8-figure construction company. Now he's a keynote speaker, business consultant. We're going to talk about getting results and the mindset behind that, actions that you can take. Marcus, Mike, Amy Durham, Dr. Rogers, Kate Colbert, Chris Clues, Dana Shudo. We have a great team and a panel that we have put into our leadership development program, and the HR Leadership Accelerator is our 12-month leadership program. And I will show that to you here. So this is our entire program. What you got over the past 4 days, or what we're delivering to you here, is a snippet of what it is that we talk about. So in airline terms, it's like the 30,000-foot view, if you will. We talked about character, presence, intellect, leading. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about getting results. But in the entire program, which is a 12-month program that's 36 weeks and 16 weeks, we go in depth in a group coaching format around every single one of these topics. So the example would be when we talk about character and values foundation, that's one whole day. Values foundation is one day. So there's 36 total of 36 topics that you see here. That's one topic per week. We hold office hours twice a week for further engagement. And what I'll show you next from the actual landing page for this program is all of the benefits that come with the full HR Leadership Accelerator. So it's 36 weeks. And the other day I talked about train, test, execute, right? So let me talk about this for just a second. Train, test, execute. How you use that inside of your organization. It's the same way that we execute that philosophy inside of our leadership program. So we train and test, 36 weeks, train, test to make sure that you have garnered a full understanding of what we're teaching from the leadership and business acumen perspective. And then the last 16 weeks is all about you. It's all about what you're dealing with in your organization. A lot of programs will deliver you case studies where you can look at and you can read this 10, 12, 15 page document and then write an essay or something, write your case synopsis around what it is that you read and how you're going to go employ that. I did a lot of those when I was going through grad school for my MBA program, and they work in the academic setting. In leadership development settings, leadership development programs, we took the adage that it's more important to make sure we're talking about your case, your cases, what it is that you're dealing with in your organization. Example, Tracy put in the comments, made a decision, the leader was away, the leader didn't always take it the right way. They got angry that she took initiative and say that she should have waited. That's the beginning of a case inside of Tracy's organization that we could actually work on. And you're getting who? You're getting this panel, myself and Mike and Marcus and our team that can actually help work through your case. We don't want to work on other companies' cases. We don't want to work on cases written by Harvard Business Review that are 20 years old. We want to work on what you're dealing with today. And that's why we have a 12-month program, and it's split into 36 weeks plus 16 weeks. So as you get further into those 36 weeks, you'll start filling out what we call our case forms. And then we will have those and we'll go through those. So it's our panel. It's the cohort that you're part of. It'll be a transformational, dynamic type of environment and type of engagement so that you really get the full impact of this program. And it actually has meaning to you. It has value to you, not just now, but into the future. And then you always have access, even when the program's over, back to our team. We are creating a network. We're going to create relationships with you, bonds with you. We want you to feel comfortable to always come back to us and tell us how things are going, work with the people that you've met, build real cohesiveness. So we will be using the own tactics that we talked to you about to make sure that we do not just form a group and teach, but we create a cohesive team in what we call our cohorts. So cohort 621 starts on June 23rd. This is the program overview that you're seeing here, but also on our website, the HR Leadership Accelerator, we really go into what the mission is, what it is that we're after to accomplish, which is along with the lines of what I just said. And then you have the SQ21 assessment at the very beginning with Amy Durham, and you get multiple coaching sessions, one-on-one coaching sessions with her. SQ21 assessment is truly eye-opening. I did it myself, got the results. I did my coaching session with Amy as well. And we do that at the very beginning because that leads right up to the first session with talking about our values foundation, and it'll really push you off the starting line on how we start the program. So everybody that comes into the cohort starts with the SQ21 assessment. It's part of the program with Amy. We do a quarterly VIP day where we bring in special guest speakers to talk to the group in a very private Zoom session. What we love about that is it really gives you access to people within a very intimate type of setting, right? So it's the access to individuals that we wouldn't normally have access to that we bring in and we deliver to you so that you can get even more value out of the program and learn from individuals who have been there, done that. They've been through all the ups and downs. They know what leadership is all about and how to actually help influence and instill the leadership abilities in others. So we do a special quarterly VIP day. You get 12 months access to our e-learning platform throughout the year that you're part of the program. Those are all HRCI SHRM approved courses for recertification. And as we bring more and more instructors on, we have like 6 instructors working on new courses right now. So those will all get published out on the platform. We sell courses for $99 each, and then there's course packs. So that's all inclusive for you when you're part of the leadership development program. You get access, you get a code. You can do those things as you wish. You can watch them on your phone, on an iPad, on a laptop, desktop, doesn't matter. You can watch those whenever you want, get a certificate at the end. We do have open office hours 2 times a week, and that's where you can come in and we can talk more informally about anything that you're dealing with in the moment at that time. This is outside of our weekly group session where we focus on the content that we're delivering to you. So the open office hours give you another opportunity to engage with us so that you can start immediately employing what you're learning and bringing any issues that you're having back to us during those open office hours. That all gets published. Of course, it's accountability. I believe in accountability wholeheartedly. Hope you do as well. I have an accountability coach myself. It's something that to keep you on track, to keep you going. If you're going to invest in yourself, it's great to have an accountability partner to keep you going and keep you committed and disciplined to going after what it is that you're out to achieve, which is really transformational career progression, build your leadership ability, build the ability really not to just get yourself to the executive table or earn your seat at the executive table, but ultimately you're a trusted advisor inside your organization. You are thought of first when there's a people issue. Whenever something happens and say a CEO or someone in the C-suite makes a decision, pretty impactful or important decision around people, and they come to you afterwards and they say something like this. They say, "Hey, Bo, I just made this decision. we're going to add more positions to the budget for the accounting team, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about that?" And you're like, "Well, you already made the decision. It's already happened. So now you're just dumping it in my lap to execute." We want you to have the opportunity be seen as, not just be seen as, but you are it. That conversation should have happened before the decision was made. Get your input, get your buy-in. You're a stakeholder in the process. You're a key stakeholder in the process. And that's what we're going to build inside of this program so that you know exactly how to do that and that you can do that. You have the confidence to do it. You build the trust in your C-suite. And ultimately, that's where you'll get. This is a very long to 12-month program, but it's a long-term impact for you as an individual. And of course, we'll have weekly homework for you to work on, if you will, weekly deliverables, so that you can really dive into the material that you're learning, and you'll have access to our how-to guides and so forth, so that you can take it with you, use it, put it in your toolkit, and so forth. Of course, there's a price. It's the part I hate talking about the most. I'm not a salesperson, but it's an important part of the program. Our one-time purchase fee, we discount it 20%. It's $9,600. That's for the whole year. Get everything that I just talked about, the all-inclusive part of the program. You can also make monthly payments at $1,000 a month if you want the payment plan. So anybody that would like to talk about this, I'm happy to set up a time. We can do a consult via Zoom. We can do a phone call, whatever the case might be. If you feel ready, it's the Bravo Center of Excellence. You see it up there at the top, .teachable.com. Just click on courses and you'll see the coaching programs. HR Leadership Accelerator is the one we're talking about here. Would be happy to have you in this cohort. Kicks off June 23rd, so in 13 days. So the sooner that you join the group, the cohort, the quicker you can get to the SQ21 assessment, because we kick that off right away. So you don't have to wait until June 23rd. Hopefully people get those finished, get your one-on-one session set up with Amy prior to June 23rd if you can. If not, then you can do it right there afterwards. That's okay, but at least get the SQ21 assessment finished. Yeah, and we go from there. So tomorrow we're going to talk about, let me remove that from the screen. So tomorrow we're going into results and getting results, which is super important. Getting results. And as Mike said, we just want to always make sure that we are making sound decisions and have the understanding that we don't always get the outcomes or the results that we expect or we thought, but it doesn't mean your decision-making process was wrong. So to answer your question, Tracy, can you purchase by class? You can purchase. There are courses in there. Those are all individual courses. You'll see a course pack in there as well. And within the course pack, you can purchase the online courses, and you can add a certain level of coaching to go with it if you'd like. So it's all on the page. Just hit the courses, and if you hit course pack, you'll see the options and so forth. So if you have other questions, let's talk offline, and we can get into it specifically, what it is that you're looking for. So with that, that's almost the hour. I really appreciate everybody hanging in there. I love this stuff. We're passionate about it. It's our mission. It's our mission. The reason we exist. And now, I mean, we live by our own mantras. The reason that this company exists, why we started it, why we founded it, why we're bringing the right people to it, is to help build leadership and business acumen in HR professionals, to flip the script, to ensure that that's how you're treated, it's how you're viewed, and there's actually reality to your ability to do it. So that's that. Our vision is to get as many people through the program as possible, and then to see studies, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, where CEOs are saying, you know what, something's changing in HR. We're seeing more leaders. We're seeing better leaders. We're seeing people solve for today's most challenging business issues from the HR department coming out of that department specifically. And we want to impact that. So we want to be the ones impacting that vision. That is our vision. And we have our values. We're committed. We have discipline. We have honor. We stick to all of our values and so forth. So watch our behaviors, pay attention to that, just as you would people in your company. So with that, I'll let you all go. I really do sincerely appreciate your time. If you want to share these videos, they're in the YouTube channel, the HR Leadership Accelerator. Just type that in the search bar in YouTube. It'll take you right to the page. Subscribe to it. We're also putting how-to videos out there. We put our classes out there as well. When we do our 30-minute free sessions, we're putting those on YouTube as well for people to see. They're also on the course page as well, so you can get a certificate that actually goes with it, and you can use it in your recertification applications for both HRCI and SHRM. So with that, I'm going to let you all go. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.